I'm not really sure, but I think I need a shave. Hey guys, my name is Chris if you didn't already know, and welcome to a Random Thoughts video. And for once it is going to be Random Thoughts because I don't know what I'm going to talk about for the first half. I do the second half, I'm going to talk about some more work stories, but for the first half I guess I could talk about this. I've already mentioned it in my vlogs that currently I am on permanent nights, or more accurately I'm on nights for a month. Well, I was asked to work nights for a month to help cover another person. However, I was already on nights when I got asked, so in total it's going to be at least 5 weeks. And I've decided while I'm on those night shifts, I ain't shaving. What's the point? I'm not going out anywhere during the day. I'm spending most of it in bed. And I have to say that it's got to the point where, well, funnily enough, it's not itched. Usually it starts itching at a certain point. It's not done that. And it's not even been scratchy, which is also another symptom that I get from it. I think I've gone beyond those, but it's now at that point where I can feel it on my face, especially when I'm outside and it's breezy. That's actually quite nice, feeling the hairs moving. But it just feels like this, like I'm wearing a mask, essentially, but not across the lips obviously, but everywhere else. And it's not annoying, more cumbersome. I don't know if that's the right word. Just know that I can feel it all the time, and it's starting to make me feel a little crazy. Although when I'm like thinking, I can go and it makes me look a bit more thoughtful. I don't know. But I have said, as soon as I'm back on regular shifts and I'm back on days, it's coming off. I just want to see how much I can let it grow. Because there was a time, I'm talking 10, 15 years ago, maybe even further, that when I turn 50, I'm going to just let my beard grow. I'm now 50 and I'm still not ready for that beard. So, clearly, because, I can just feel it all the time. What else can I talk about? I could bring up this online safety act that's come about. Oh my days. I mean, it's not affected me yet, but I've got a feeling it's about to, because I've heard that YouTube are going to implement it. And I don't feel like it's a good idea to upload my identification, like a driver's license or a passport, onto the internet, because anybody can use it then, data breaches and all that. Obviously this is just another way for the government to try and censor the UK. They've done all sorts to do that and they're just making it worse. But that being said, with it coming to YouTube, apparently, am I still going to be able to make videos and upload them if I don't do it? I mean, there's supposed to be the facial recognition thing, and like you just scan your face and it'll say, yeah, you're above 18. What I don't understand is, right, I've been on YouTube since 2010, 15 years ago. All they have to do is look at a video from that time, see that I was an adult then, and think, oh, well, he's not digressed into childhood, has he? He's an adult. He's old enough. Apparently also Xbox are about to do it as well. There's already videos online on TikTok where they're saying, what's this crap? Why have I got to prove my age? Blah, blah, blah. I've yet to see that. I'm expecting it any moment, which is not good because I'm addicted to GTA still. But yeah, it's really annoying, and it's not just the UK government. There's like Australia, for example. They've rolled out this thing where if you're under the age of 16, you can't use YouTube. What? I don't get it. There has to be easier ways of doing this rather than, having us to sacrifice our identifications for perusal from the powers that be. I can feel a rant coming on about that. That reminds me, I've got videos that I've been wanting to do for ages, like a bus rant, for example. It's a random video. I've not done a random video in ages. I first came about with that idea when I was still catching the bus to work. And that was over 2 years ago. And I still got the notes on my phone waiting for me to do it. I've put it on my whiteboard, you know, the one where I'm got my video planner up, and it's written on there to film. Still haven't done it. And that reminds me, I've got other videos. I did 2 React videos in March, not this year, last year. I've only edited one of them. The other one still sat on my computer waiting for me to edit it. I think it's because when I did the first one, I found it very daunting to edit, because I'm not just editing what I'm saying, but also the videos that I'm watching. And you never know when YouTube's going to say, oh, you can't use that, that's a copyrighted thing. So I've kind of just left that sat in limbo. Maybe I will do it at some point and see what happens. I do remember though, I started that video at least 3 times, because whatever it is I was reacting to, it wasn't that entertaining, I felt. And so I just stopped, looked for something else, started reacting to that, and again that was not very good. So I stopped that, started again reacting to another video, and that was the one I filmed. So I've got to get through all that. When I finally get around to doing it, at least I've been good with my dashcam videos. I've been making sure I've uploaded one of those every month. Anything else happening in the world other than the fact that all I'm doing is 12-hour nights. Last week, for example, I did 5, and my sleep pattern's gone absolutely out of the window, honestly, because normally I'm doing a week of nights, week of days, week of nights, week of days. And so my body clock, it's like, when I'm on nights, I'll come home, empty my bag, go upstairs to my bedroom, I'll get ready for bed, climb in, I'm gone, out, straight away. And then after that week, I'm on to days. And so, you know, I'm getting up early to go to work, finish work, I go either to do a bit of shopping, or I just go straight home and I chill out and relax and don't go to bed until about 10, half 10 at night. Because I'm not doing that, my body clock has been messed up. Because I'm stuck on nights, my body thinks, oh, you've just finished work, not time for bed yet. So I go home, do the usual, empty my bag, get myself ready for bed, climb in, and that's when my brain just starts with not exactly that, but you know, it just does not shut up, because my body's like, what are you doing getting in bed? It's not time yet. And so I'll have about 4 hours sleep. You know, my whole body clock is just off kilter. Thankfully this week I've only done 3 nights. And so I finished yesterday morning at 6. I went straight to bed. Thankfully I went straight to sleep. Although I did do a weird thing the other morning. I woke up thinking, oh, I've turned my alarm off, but I've fallen back to sleep, I better get up. And as I got out of bed, I looked at the clock, it was only 25 past 10. I'm like, huh? I dreamt my alarm had got off. So quickly went to the toilet, got back in bed, out again. But yeah, this week, because I'm only done 3 nights, I got up early yesterday, and then last night about 1:30 I was tired, so I went to bed, and I've got up at 8 today. So I'm trying to get get some regular sleep before I go back on nights next week, which apparently I don't start until Wednesday night, because we're only doing 3 nights that week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But anyway, let's talk about some old work stories. That means I need to get my notes out on my phone, and hopefully this time I'm not going to do a very long video like I did the last time. So what I should really talk about is what I was doing. Did I already mention that? I'd mentioned I'd been to college, I'd become an office junior. I think I talked about how I got the job and made a bet with my hair. Did I? I need to go double check this. Okay, I just had a quick gander. I was talking about my formative years. So I did talk about the fact that I was hardness testing and my accident and all that. But yeah, I was still in my testing years when I had to have injection in my knee and I went doolally. Yes, as I mentioned on the last video, I had that accident with my knee, and I've had problems with it since then, but I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was a few years later. I was starting to limp a little again, started having trouble with it again. So I was sent to the works doctor, whom I didn't like because he was the one who said the last time that, oh, after a month your knee's fine, you can go back to work. No, it wasn't. But anyway, he decided that he was going to give me an injection in the back of my knee where it sort of removes the scar tissue so that it can re-heal itself. That's the way he explained it to me. I don't really understand. And me being me, I don't like needles. I've passed out from injections before and since. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was after the injection, it was one day. The next day I was back at work. This is the doolally part. At this point in time, I'd not really argued with anybody, especially my manager. Anyway, he came over with the guy I work with on the testing, and he said something to me, I can't remember what, but suddenly all I remember is I just started ripping into him, like verbally, not physically, and I have absolutely no idea what I said. That's the honest truth. But I just remember just like seeing red and just going at him, and I remember his face, it was just like shock. Like, I've never heard Chris say this before to anybody. And he was that dumbfounded. He just walked away. And as soon as he walked away, all of a sudden my whole mood just spun 180. And that's when I turned to the other guy and I said, what did I just say? And he's like, what do you mean, what did you just say? And he says, you said this. I'm like, I've no recollection of anything what I've just said. Now, I don't really know what happened after that. I didn't get reprimanded or anything. But I think it was a week later I had to go see the works doctor again to see how my knee's doing. And I don't know how the subject came up, but I sort of told him what happened, how I laid into my manager. And he's like, I'm sorry, you went back to work the day after? And I went, yeah. But didn't I tell you not to go to work for a few days? No. He's like, the injection had some drugs in it that was going to send you a bit loopy. That's why you needed to stay at home. I'm like, that explains a lot. So when I went back to work, I explained that to my manager and he's like, yeah, you did seem a bit off. This is why I don't like I didn't like the works doctor. He did not explain anything to you that you needed to know, no information. He just give you the basics of like what the injection is going to do, and that's it. He didn't explain that there was drugs in there and it was going to send me nuts. So yeah, that was a fun memory that I sort of recall. Like I say, I don't really remember that much about it. But yeah, I mean, I've not had to have anything else for my knee since then. Although I do recall, it's not in my notes, I don't actually know if it was before or after that happened, but I started cycling a lot at one point after I got a new bike, the same bike that I got from the compensation from that. I rode all the way from where I live to Clumber Park and back, as well as just cycling everywhere for a good 3 weeks, and because of that it sent my knee funny again, and I ended up having 3 months off work because I couldn't even walk on it. It slowly started getting more painful, unable to use it as much, until at the point where I couldn't walk on it. I was given a sick note for like a month, and then because I was at that point where I just literally could not go anywhere. I was just sat here in front of the telly all the time. Yeah, I had 3 months off. I don't know if that's why I ended up having that injection. It might be. But like I said, since then it's just, every now and then it'll hurt. Old age. Alright, yeah. Spinning spanner like Robocop into side pocket. Yeah, that's a fun memory. When I was on the testing, on hardest testing, I used to have this spanner to tighten up the chain for the penetroscope, and I always used to spin it, and then as I brought it down, put it into I had like a side pocket on my trousers. Always just kept doing that, like Robocop. Yeah, I got really good at that. I miss doing that. That was fun. It sent me to Holland. Yeah, I'm gonna do that in another store. In fact, that's another video that I plan on doing, that I fished out all the stuff. I kept sort of like a diary of what happened when I was in Holland. That's a whole separate video, so I don't know why I've put that on here. This story, I was still on hardness testing, talking of not being able to sleep. There was one night I had insomnia. I suffer from it now and then, and it got to about 3 o'clock in the morning or something daft like that, or 2 o'clock. I'm like, I can't sleep, so I'm getting out of bed. Sat down and watched Star Trek Voyager, because at that time I was buying the videos as they were coming out, the new ones. So this was like the late 90s. Yeah, definitely the mid to late 90s. I watched 2 episodes of Voyager, got ready for work, went to work. This is when I was catching the bus. I didn't have a car at the time. And, you know, I just got on with the work that I needed to do. Until at one point, I don't know exactly what time it was, but I could feel myself starting to get really drowsy. And you know how it is, if you've been awake for so long, you just start seeing things. I'd got all my work done, and I was really out of it. So I talked to I can't remember who it was I talked to, a manager or whoever, because I think my manager was on holiday at the time. And I said to him, look, I've done everything I need to do. I've had no sleep. I'm struggling to stay awake. Can I go home? And he said, yeah. Got on the bus. I had to catch the bus into town, like I said the last time. And I could feel myself going. I'm like, no, I've got to stay awake. Got into town. Got onto the next bus to go home. I just kept dropping off, and I clearly remember as every time I dozed, straight into a dream, and like suddenly wake myself up. I'm like, I need to stay awake to get off the bus, but I couldn't. I just kept falling asleep, going straight into a dream, suddenly waking back up again, and it just kept happening over and over and over until I managed to get home. And I didn't even think about it. I didn't even empty my bag. I just chucked it to one side, stripped off, climbed into bed. I was out until the next day. Honestly, just gone. Don't know why that's a core memory, but it is. Shall we do one more? The staircases. Yes. That was another thing that I hated about working there. The shop that I worked in was very tall as well as long, because we had the shop floor, but then as you went towards the back, we had what was called the induction stand, and it went up pretty high. So you had to climb up 4 flights of stairs to get to the top. You needed to climb up 2 flights just to get to the middle landing. And because at one point, this was after testing, when I was the crane driver and then the team leader, I was up and down them stairs all day. How I didn't lose weight is beyond me. That's probably what messed up my knee as well, even more. But yeah, up and down those stairs. And it wasn't just one side. At the back, there was another 4 flights of stairs. Was it 4? Yes, 4. And because the locker rooms was where the mess room was, and that was on the middle landing, down to go there. And then back up again. Sometimes you're in the mess room having your dinner, whatever, and you hear an alarm go off on a furnace. At this point, you know, I'd recognise which alarm it is, which furnace, so I knew which one to go to. But up and downstairs to get to these furnaces. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with those stairs anymore. Honestly, it was just bonkers. Shall I just do one more, because that wasn't really a big story. But yeah, going back to the fact that I went from testing to others. What happened was, people on the induction stand, where they were using buttons and dials to heat treat these steel rolls through the induction stand with the coils that, you know, heated up the rolls. They were going on long-term sick, a few of them, so they needed people to cover, and I got asked. And at this point, I'd been on hardness testing for about 4 years, and I was really bored of it. It was tedious work. It was just the same thing over and over and over. So obviously I said, yeah. Well, I got a crash course in it at first. You know, I was learning off others, and they were showing me how to do it. And this was before it all became automated, so I learned how to do it all manually. So you know, as it's going through one coil, you had to make sure it was at the right temperature, and then you had to control it to make sure it stayed at that temperature. And then it got into the second coil, so you had to do it with the other dial. And then when it got into the water tank, you had to make sure that you turn that water on at the right time, otherwise it would just blow up. Yes, it was dangerous work, but luckily I never had that problem when I was hardening. There had been times when they'd blown up, and there are other stories that I will get to. So yeah, I had this crash course. It took 3 weeks for me to learn it, and then I was put onto shifts for the very first time in my life, and I stayed on there for about 3 months, and then those people who were on sick were coming back. You know, the sick notes were running out and they were better and they were coming back. So my manager said to me one day, says, yeah, they're coming back, so you're going back testing. And I went, no. He went, what do you mean no? I says, you send me back to hardness testing. I says, you see that door down there? I'll be walking out of it and you'll never see me again. What do you mean? You can't say that. I says, yeah, I can. I am never going back testing. It's boring. I'll do anything else but go testing. And he's like, well, you can't stay on induction because they're coming back. I says, fair enough, give me something else. And that's when I found out that one of the guys who was a crane driver, that's what all his job was, he wanted to stop doing that, and he says he'd go testing. So we swapped. So that's how I got onto crane driving. And that was basically just me helping the team leader out whenever he needed use of the crane, also with the induction stands to unload and reload them. And then after about, I think, 9 months of that, it came up that the team leader job was coming up because one of them were retiring. And my manager says, I hope to see your name on that list. I'm like, fair enough. Yeah, my name was the only name. That's how I ended up becoming a team leader by the end of 1999, or during 1999. Was it 1999 or 2000? I can't remember. But yeah, I became team leader, and that meant it was my responsibility to make sure the furnaces were loaded up with the correct jobs, and decide which furnaces they were going in and so forth. And yeah, that's how I ended up getting to that position. And I'll talk more about that, more stories in the next one. Look at that, I'm managing to finish the video before I finish my coffee. Wow. Yeah, I've got a whole lot of stories. I mean, this is my list. It goes on for a long time. Alright guys, I'm gonna finish the video now. All that's left for me to say is thank you for watching and subscribing if you have, and liking this video if you did. Until the next time, peace out. You know, sometimes I do try to think, what was it I said to my manager when I went doolally after that injection? I really cannot recall any of it. I'm trying to remember what the other guy told me that I said. I don't know. I ain't got a clue. And just so you know, it's not the only time I went doolally. There's another time. I will talk about that in another video, because I do remember some of that.